Okay, here we are in lesson 12 video 2, and like I asked you to do, you should be in your Learn book. It looks a little bit like this, and we're going to use the graph to complete parts A and B. So let's look at part A. It says plot point Q so that PQ is vertical. Remember, we just reviewed the word vertical, and has length of 1 3/4 units. We're calling it units because we didn't name these centimeters or feet or anything like that. Just calling it units, that's fine. And use a straight edge to draw PQ, which would be a line segment. And what is the ordered pair for point Q? So go ahead and do that. Plot point Q so that PQ is vertical and has a length of 1 3/4 units. All right, so it's going to have to be somewhere related to P. And this one's kind of interesting because there's more than one right answer. So go ahead and put what you think would be correct for point Q, 1 3/4 units. So I'm going to go from P, and I'm going to go 1 because P is at 2. So I'm going to go 1 and then 3/4, 1, 2, 3/4 units, and I'm going to put my Q there. And then I'm going to make that my, I know it said use a straight edge, but I just drew on the line. I'm going to make that my line segment. Line segment because it has a point on each end and no arrow, making it a line that would go on forever, right? Okay, good. On plot point S so that RS is horizontal and has a length of 1/2 unit. 1/2 unit. So R, and R is at 2 1/4, right? Did you notice that? It's not exactly on 2, it's at 2 1/4. So I need to make my horizontal line 1/2 unit. So could I say, okay, if they're fourths, then 1 2/4 would be a half. That makes sense. And I could put my S here, right? And then I'm going to make a line segment. All right. Now, did you have to make them that way? I'm going to get another color here. Let's try blue. And let's see if we could have made our Q something different. Could you have made your Q 1 3/4 units below P? 1, 1, 2, 3. It would fit there, right? Could we have put our Q down here? I think it would still meet the criteria, right? And then what about our S? 1/2 unit, horizontal. It didn't say which side it had to be on, right? So our S could be there. Okay? All right, so just working on how to plot points and how we know how to plot the points and using the clues that they give us, right? Okay, very good. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about angles. Let me get a new paper here, and let's just talk a little bit about angles to make sure that we are on the same page. If an angle is like this, and of course an angle is going to have lines on the end going on forever, right? What do we call that angle? That is called a right angle, and it is 90 degrees, okay? So what a right angle and what 90 degrees means is that it's going to be right on a corner, yeah? And there's actually a little corner box that shows it's a right angle. So we have a lot of right angles in life, right? We have the corner of a Post-it note is going to be a right angle. So if you ever wanted to check, you could just put your Post-it note in there like that. The corner of most pieces of paper are going to be right angles, yeah? We could say that a desk is going to be a right angle, but sometimes a desk might have a soft corner so that it's not sticking out at you, right? But most notebooks and folders and things like that are going to be right angles. Okay, then what if it is less than 90 degrees, not a corner, right? But less. You can see that it's inside of the 90 degrees. That is called an acute angle, and that is going to be anything less than 90 degrees. Oh, funny that our little less than sign also is an acute angle. Okay, then how about an obtuse angle? Obtuse angle more than 90 degrees. Okay, so you would see that your 90 degrees would be right here, right? Where a horizontal line and a vertical line meet would be exactly 90 degrees, right? And so when we have more, it's obtuse, and when we have less, it's acute. A cute little angle, right, is one way to remember it. Okay, so let's go to number 2 in your book, and let's look at an angle. Okay, what kind of angle do you see there? It is an acute angle, right? Because 90 degrees, take our little piece of paper, line it up, and we can see that it's less than 90 degrees, right? Of course, you can also use a protractor, but make sure you're using your protractor correctly and line up the dot with the line on the protractor, and then you can see this would be 90 degrees, right? And it is less than 90 degrees, okay? Very good. And what else do we see? A ray, right? Because it has a point on one side and an arrow on the other, so that makes it a ray, okay? Let's plot point K at 6, 8. Point K at 6, 8. So if our ordered pair is 6, 8, the first one is the X, so across 6. The second one is the Y, so up 8. So right here on the top of my J, unfortunately, is point K. All right? Now, what if we had HIK and we made this a line coming out from I? What is the what is the measure of angle HIK? Yes, that is 90 degrees. That is a right angle. Good job. How about HIJ? Is it acute or obtuse? It is acute because it's less than 90 degrees, right? This is 90 degrees altogether, so this part is less than 90 degrees. All right, very good. And we can use our protractor to actually measure the actual angle of that. We're going to line it up, okay? And we're going to make sure that our middle is right here, okay? So we can see straight up is 90, and this is, now remember, it's less than 90, so we're not going to be looking at these big numbers, 140, 130. We're looking at the small numbers. Looks like 45 degrees right there in the middle. Do you see the small numbers? 40, 50, right? Because it's less than 90 degrees, so we know that it's less, so that's about 45 degrees. All right, very good. And in number 2, we have some questions. What is the measure of HIJ? 45 degrees, so letter A is 45 degrees, and remember you write the degree symbol because that's a measurement, just like temperature, right? But this isn't temperature. Plot point N so that MLN is a right angle. Okay, so, oh, did I forget to put the M on there? Yep, LM. Now we need N, making it a right angle, so it's going to have to be somewhere on this line. Did they say where it has to be? No. So we could put it anywhere on this line. I'm going to put mine right here. You put yours where you want. Okay, very good. Draw line LN. Okay. What is the measure of MLN? That's letter B. MLN LN is 90 degrees, right? We can see that it's making a horizontal and vertical meeting at a right angle. Plot point O so that MLO is an obtuse angle. Okay, MLO. So O is going to have to be over here somewhere to make it more than 90 degrees. So I'm going to put it here at 1, 3. You put it where you want. Okay, and I'm going to make an arrow on the end, and that's O. Okay, and what is the measurement of MLO? Well, you're going to need to measure yours unless you put it exactly where I put mine. And we're going to have to put the dot where it meets up with the line in the middle. And we're going to have bigger numbers, bigger than 90 degrees now. So we're going to use the big numbers. And mine is going to be 160 degrees. 160 degrees. Okay, so measure yours depending on what yours is. And then part D, last one, plot P so that MLP is an acute angle, less than 90 degrees, a cute little angle, right? So it's going to have to be over here, anywhere less than 90 degrees. I'm going to put mine down here, make it really small, and that is point P, less than 90 degrees. And then what is the measurement of that? You're going to need to use your protractor, practice measurements, line up your L with the middle, and P, it's going to be the small numbers because it's less than 90 degrees, between 20 and 30, so I'm going to call that 35 degrees. Teddy, please stop scratching. Okay. Like I said, you could have put them where you wanted them, but you need to measure them and make sure you got them. And I will see you on our next video. Thank you for your hard work. Aloha.